Hey guys, welcome to week two. Today I will be discussing proposals mainly. I'll start by giving some general feedback on what you've done so far. So weekly reading notes one, and then your introductory memo, and then I'll get into um, giving you some context for the proposals, which will be the next week of your life. So overall, I thought the weekly reading notes were very strong. It's really straightforward in terms of formatting, right? So I give you the formatting, I give you the Microsoft Word document, and you just keep that formatting the same. So keep it 12 point Times New Roman font, just 10 lines per section. It should not go over a line short or over of the one page mandate. So make sure you are following that. Um, I feel as though many of you kind of struggle to find your objective summary voice. So when writers don't have mastery over the content, objective voices tend to turn into broad generalizations. And the reality is you're not experts necessarily, because this might be an introductory class for many of you, and that's fine. But avoid big generalizations when you're trying to make summaries. So be specific to illustrate points if you're bringing something up, or to illuminate a topic. This is powerful in summary as well. Summary just doesn't mean a series of overarching broad generalizations disconnected from each other. Summary means capturing the main gist of what's being said and doing so in a short, cogent way. So in this way, you kind of have to find the balance between your personal voice and what many of you might think of as the academic objective voice, where you have to have this kind of distance from the topic and have a 10,000-foot view of it. But what happens is when you try to do that, your language becomes more jumbled and there's a lack of clarity. So while it is good to have that good 10,000-foot sense of the content that you're covering, try to bring it down a bit and actually just kind of focus on the ideas. Feel free to use I in your summaries, first person writing. That is completely fine. That's a false distinction. Something can be very formal and put I in it. Some of the most formal documents that we use to run a world have I or we in them. So that doesn't necessarily make it formal or informal. It's more the tone and the style and what you're talking about that makes something formal or informal. And make sure to view the rubric. All your feedback is on there. So I've given you in-text feedback, comments specifically, and there'll be more feedback during week one to kind of set you on your way for the next five. So I gave you more feedback than you'll probably get for the rest of them, unless I start to see other common patterns. So make sure you view the rubric, the criteria that I checked off, and then also the comments on the text as well. Now, the introductory memos I thought were done very, very well. Yeah, many of you have a good sense of what the memo format should be. Again, use the formats from the book that are provided to you, and follow instructions very carefully. So in the syllabus, it was pretty clear what each heading or which headings should be there. And a surprising amount of you, I guess, didn't necessarily follow that. So as I said in my first mini lecture during week one, I am pretty consistent in my love for detail, and I think that's something that when you leave this class, I want you to leave with attention to detail, and to see that attention to detail isn't important necessarily because I'm telling you to, but attention to detail is important because that's how technical documents work. So Gantt charts as well. See figure 16.5 for Gantt charts. I'd say about half of you really understood what the purpose of a Gantt chart is, which is to show the kind of progression in the timeline and duration, more specifically, of each task. So it's not just a table or a schedule, it's something different. So figure 16.5 will get you there. So proposals. This week you are technically starting your research process. So here's what you need to do. As per the syllabus, each of you are writing a proposal. Now, I've given you three cases, and all of those are in Blackboard. Case 1, Case 2, and Case 3. They're all in Blackboard. And what they're all doing is they're all helping the department or the university in some way try to help solve a problem. So going back to week 1, I said technical writing is a problem-solving activity. And a lot of the reports, a lot of the good reports, and I think a lot of the reports that students enjoy doing and get a lot out of, are connected to some real thing that's happening. So all three of the cases are to some varying level a concern that our department needs to attend to or is currently attending to. For example, case 1, currently there's a Bachelor of Science in IDS, in Interdisciplinary Studies. And what's happening is we're changing it to a BS in English in Technical Communication, or we're trying to get that proposal through. And we sent out a survey last year, so for some of you IDS students, you might have got it, asking about the employability and the marketability of the IDS degree, etc. And then we're always interested, case 2, in the perceptions and attitudes towards technical writing. As we continue to modify our curriculum for technical writing and professional writing, It's always important that we understand our student body and we understand kind of their attitudes coming into the classroom. Um, and then identifying and exploring the various writing technologies used by undergraduates, that's case three. That's always useful as well because we want our curriculum to match and model the technologies that you'll be using in the workplace. So we want to make sure that we have not only an alignment between those things, but also make sure that we understand where students are coming from in terms of their technology use. So choose one of those three cases. You could read through all of them. You have to read through the write-ups. So the write-ups are absolutely key. So you really need to choose one of those cases and really understand the rhetorical situation, the context that I'm asking you to put yourself in. And then what you are to do is, so choose one and then write in what's called an internal proposal. So in the chapter on proposals that you have to read this week, there are different kinds: external, internal, solicited, unsolicited. This is kind of a solicited internal proposal. So you're not looking for big money from NSF or another big granting agency or from the government. You're looking for, or you're helping do something modest within our local community and culture, which is typically what an internal proposal is. So a good proposal must convince your reader that you have good vision and are able to perform the task at hand. Those are the key things. It's this kind of weird space that proposals kind of occupy. This picture right here kind of gets at it, where like you know enough of the topic and you've done a bit of preliminary research, enough to know that something needs to be proposed and enough to know or have a vision of what needs to be done or the information that needs to be found, but there's still this whole bit left that you have to do. So a proposal is that kind of weird in-between space. So when you think about technical documents, and one of the reasons why I love assigning a proposal is because it forces students into that weird situation where you don't have any full research to report yet because you haven't sent out your questionnaires, and we're going to talk about that next. But you also know enough about it to make a proposal towards it. So you don't know, for example, what students think about the transition from a Bachelor of Science in IDS to a Bachelor of Science in English, but you know that we need to move in that direction. So it's this weird kind of in-between space that a lot of documents that you write at work are. So the skill I'm really assessing for here, and what I'm asking you to cultivate and hone and all that good stuff in terms of your skills is, are you able to convince your reader, to convince your audience that you are capable of something? So this proposal really is kind of convincing and persuading people about your ethos, your character, your vision for something. A lot of good things happen through proposals, right? If you've ever applied for a scholarship, you're saying, I will, it's a contract essentially. I will do this. I haven't done it yet. I know there's something there, but I need you to trust me. Or if you need money to do something with another proposal, for example. So this goes back to the cycle of documentation I was talking about before, where this is a document that you get early on in the process, but you're not necessarily recommending anything just yet. So that is your necessarily for the proposal. So like I said, there is some research that you have done. So there'll be primary research. So included in the proposal, you'll have 7 questions, really 8, right? And I'm going to show you images right now of those 3. Essentially, it's 8 because the first question is asking for the student's survey ID, which is just their UAN. So that's going to look like this. It's just a comment box where students, it's not like you don't have to password protect the survey or anything like that. You're just asking them what it is and they have to fill it in, and then I will give them credit for it. And then you're asking 5 quantitative questions. Quantitative along the lines of this. This is a matrix where if you chose case 2, I think this might be a question that you would ask. Quantitative is just a click or a menu drop-down response or a rating of 1 to 10 or something like that. Something that doesn't require any writing on behalf of the participant. And then 2 qualitative questions that look like this, which are open-ended questions where the student has to provide an answer in a text box. We're going to talk about how to submit this survey next week. So for this, really all you have to do is include what questions you're going to ask in your proposal. So there are headings in the proposal, in the internal proposal that I'm asking for, and they are in the syllabus: header, purpose, summary, intro, proposed tasks, schedule, experience, and references. So in the proposed tasks, you're going to outline the questionnaire questions you plan on including, as well as the areas and avenues of research that you plan to explore. So there's secondary research as well. So you can research academic and non-academic sources to help um, support your proposal. So for example, if you're doing case one about the transition in Bachelor of Science in IDS to Bachelor of Science in Technical Communication, you might research other programs that exist in Bachelor of Science in Technical Communication and see if there's anything online about any transitions that anyone else made, or how long have those programs been around, and why should ODU adopt it, for example. So for the first week, you can have a couple sources. They're not required necessarily, but keep in mind that the purpose of the proposal is to convince the audience that you are not only the right person for the job, but that you have a good sense of the topic at hand already. Because proposals, most of the time, are either accepted or rejected. That's kind of the thing, right? They usually cross some threshold between, are you going to get chosen or are you not? So imagine yourself competing against all the other students in this class, and I only get to select the 3 best proposals. What the criteria I'm going to look for is, do you know a lot about the topic? Do you understand the topic? Do you understand who the audience is? And are you capable of doing this research? So always keep those in mind when you're writing the proposal, because it is a persuasive document in that sense. And this goes back to in week 1 when I was talking about how technical writing isn't just the clear communication of ideas. It's persuasive because you have to persuade your audience in very subtle ways that you are the right person for the job. And that is done through looking professional. That is done through showing a good grasp of the topic. And that is done through showing that you know the right questions to ask and really explore. So if this all seems really vague, read the cases, and what you're going to do is you're going to immerse yourself in that case, imagine yourself in that case, and then the data that you collect will actually be pretty useful for us. So don't send the survey just yet. I'm going to get to that on Sunday or Monday next week for week 3. So just write the proposal. So that's all I have to say about the proposal. Let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, the format is really set. Make sure you have headings. Make sure you're following the models in the textbook. And make sure you are thinking about how to convince your audience that you are the right person for the job, and that you have a good sense of the content. So a lot of this content might be unfamiliar. You're just kind of thrown into this situation where you don't know a lot about the background or anything. I've given you some historical context in the cases, so you can pull that. So use the information I'm presenting in the case, right? Think of the case as kind of almost in a legal sense. I've given you the case. There's evidence in there that you can extract to kind of help you figure out what kind of information we're looking for. So very closely read those cases, because just from reading the case alone, you'll have enough context to understand what it is that we're looking for and what this research could be going forward. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking forward to reading your proposals. Read the cases closely. Get to know SurveyMonkey. So you can set up the questions in there. You don't have to put them in SurveyMonkey just yet, because we're not going to be releasing them until next week. But again, let me know if you have any questions about the proposal. But do keep in mind, it is this weird space, and this is a very interesting space and very useful space for you to master.